We go live to Belgium to hear the final statements of the 2023 People's Summit in Brussels.
We need to fight the consequences of the capitalist model. We need to create governmental systems to guarantee the right to clean water as an essential right for every people. In order to develop these major social, economical, we need to protect the nature as well as the people. We need to stay together in order to fight all of the policies that are against all Latin American countries. We demand that all policies against our countries and our politics and also everything that we stand for need to stop right now. All the proposals and thoughts shared in this conference, in this summit, in both Latin American and European countries, are all to keep fighting and developing in order to achieve our main goal of develop our countries and fight against imperialism.
Como no podía ser menos, y ya se ha dicho, también esta cumbre se ha solidarizado con la lucha del pueblo palestino y el pueblo saharaui.
We also would like to highlight the fact that the fight of the Palestinian country. I would like to apologize because I presented to you the rest of the personnel, but I didn't introduce to you my partner here next to me. We're going to share this table right now, and we're going to share thoughts. I would like to welcome every president present here. The President of Brazil, of Cuba, in Bolivia, Argentina, and the rest of the mandataries and embassies present here.
Pero también de otros parlamentos que los hay aquí también. Amigos y amigas, a todos y todas damos las buenas-venidas.
Friends, I'd like to welcome to you all.
Realizamos este acto de clausura de la Cumbre de los Pueblos aquí en el Parlamento Europeo.
We're gathered here in the European Parliament to give closure to this summit.
No momento en que el imperialismo trata de reducir la conciencia de los pueblos sobre sus
We are living a moment now where the imperialism is trying to keep Latin American countries and the rest of the countries in the world to keep being free and sovereign. They're trying to achieve this by means of manipulation, lies, and false politics against these countries. They also use facet and neoliberal policies against these countries.
como las que hemos discutido hoy por la mañana, los intentos de golpe de Estado, los efectos
We
de
have
las
been
políticas de
discussing
confrontación y sanción,
yesterday and
la
also this
desinformación,
morning
las consecuencias de
the
la
different
política de sanciones
attempts
como
and politics
instrumento
against
de
Latin American
confrontación y
countries and the
política
effect that
internacional,
they had
al margen
on
del
each
derecho
country.
internacional y de la Carta de las Naciones Unidas. Momentos como hemos vivido ayer y hoy en la cumbre.
We also discussed about the International Rights Bill
Muy emocionante de solidaridad con Cuba, en el que
and
participó
also the
el
solidarity and help that every
momentos
country in Latin America shares in this region, in this space.
con los pueblos que diariamente resisten contra el imperialismo y para también homenajearnos su determinación.
In this summit, we also celebrate the unity of the countries in this region and development they have achieved, the improvement they have made.
Imperialismo y de defender la paz. Muchas gracias.
Always defending the principles, the solidarity and the help they always have shared.
Y ahora paso la palabra a Peter Mertens, secretario general del Partido de Trabajo de Bélgica, nuestro país anfitrión.
Now I would like to give the word to my partner,
Para agradecerle toda la organización que
and I also like to thank him the fact that he organized and played an important role during this summit.
Te paso la palabra.
Thank you. Dear Presidents, dear Foreign Ministers, dear Members of Parliament, panelists, friends and comrades, at this Cumbre in the European Parliament, history proceeds in waves, and I think it's important to understand the movement of history. The unipolar era under the dominance of the United States is coming to an end, and the future belongs to multilateral relations between countries and peoples with mutual respect and reciprocity without outside political or military interference. And we all know, as the movement of history continues, some cling to the certainties of the old world going down. And for some European forces, respect and reciprocity are still difficult concepts. A senior European Union diplomat told Euronews last week, quote, "It seems that the governments of Latin America and the Caribbean want to be seen as equal partners," unquote. Literally. A high diplomat of the European Union last week, not 50 years ago, last week. It seems that they want to be seen as equal partners. And so it is this neo-colonial attitude that still haunts the minds of old forces. A number of diplomats, government leaders and forces in Europe have not seen or have not wanted to see the changes in the world. They failed to see how the illegal war against Iraq in 2003 definitely undermined the credibility of the United States as a so-called leader of the world. They failed to see how in 2008 the financial crisis undermined the credibility of the Western financial institutions, and rightly so. They failed to see how the rest of the world reacts differently to the war in Ukraine than the rest. And I do not mean the issue of condemning Russian invasion, which is a violation of international law. I'm talking about the sanctions, economic sanctions, embargo, shutting down the SWIFT interbank system and freezing the central bank reserves. And everyone knows that all those sanctions can be used against other countries tomorrow and are in fact already used today against countries. We're thinking about, among others, the criminal embargo and blockade against Cuba. And recently, I will close with that, Fiona Hill, who is a former staff member of the Security Council in the United States, she said about the vote of the countries in the United Nations against the sanctions, that is nothing else as mutiny, she said. It is mutiny. So they call it mutiny, that countries and peoples want to make their own decisions about their own resources. They call it mutiny, that countries and peoples refuse to take sides in a new Cold War or a trade war that's forced upon them from Washington. They call it mutiny that the unipolar era of the United States is quietly coming to an end. Well, if that is mutiny, let's embrace the mutiny of the global South, because it is on the right wave of history, comrades. And so we are in Brussels, but in Brussels there is not only the European Parliament, there is another Brussels, there is another Belgium, there is another Europe, and there is mutiny in Europe too. There are people suffering in Europe from inflation and poverty, and there is a class struggle in Europe going up and down like waves of the sea. And if we can get a mutiny of the North to lend a hand to the mutiny of the South, and vice versa, we can turn the world around in a democratic, social and ecological direction the planet needs. So, viva el respeto, la amistad y la solidaridad entre los pueblos. Viva el motín, long live mutiny. I thank you.
Muchas gracias, Peter. Ahora paso la palabra, es una honra pasar la palabra a Luis Arce, que es presidente de Estado Plurinacional de Bolivia desde 2020.
Now we'll give the word to the president of the multi-plural government of Bolivia.
Después del golpe que el imperialismo ha atentado contra Bolivia en 2019. Te paso la palabra. Encantada por tener acá con nosotros.
Muchísimas gracias. Muy buenas noches ya.
Thank you. Good night to everyone here present.
Habernos invitado a esta clausura del Cumbre de los Pueblos.
Thank you for inviting me to this summit.
Al hermano y compañero Manu Pineda por la invitación.
I would like to thank my brother Pineda for the invitation.
Estar en este acto, al hermano Peter del Partido de los Trabajadores de Bélgica, anfitrión de este evento también, a todos ustedes.
I would like to thank also to the host of this meeting and to everybody here present who is listening.
El apoyo que recibimos quizás en los momentos más difíciles que atravesaba nuestra democracia.
I also would like to thank your help, the help that you gave us during the hardest time in our country. I think it's worth remembering the success of the 2019.
Instala una autoproclamada presidenta que con normativas absolutamente
a year when a person who proclaimed herself president of the country was trying to unstabilize the government.
Que hemos sido sometidos. Y en ese momento, cuanto más necesitábamos de la cooperación internacional,
in that moment,
que no estábamos solos,
when we needed the most the help of the rest of neighboring countries, we received so much help. It was truly helpful and helped us to overcome the situation.
El pueblo boliviano es un pueblo luchador. Es un pueblo que ha sabido conseguir.
The Bolivian people is a people who know how to fight, a people who like to defend their principles. We also defend life. We have leaders that have been an example for the rest.
Está el compañero Marcelo Quiroga Santa Cruz, un socialista que también fue sacrificado en la dictadura.
We have figures like Marcelo Quiroga, who was killed trying to defend the principles.
Que ha mostrado esa valentía y esa madurez y esa conciencia para poder defender y en democracia haber instituido.
We have always shown that we would defend our principles no matter the circumstances and no matter what is going on in that moment.
Se enjuiciaba como candidato sino también inclusive atentados que hemos sufrido nosotros en plena campaña.
We have suffered the interference of other countries in our political affairs.
Que enfrentábamos ahí cuesta arriba, no estábamos en gobierno, nuestros dirigentes perseguidos.
Those were difficult times. We weren't in charge of the government.
Muchos de ellos porque teníamos la dictadura detrás de nosotros.
We were fighting against the opposition. We were fighting against a dictator.
Felizmente que hay mucha diferencia entre un gobierno de derecha y habíamos vivido 14 años con un gobierno progresista que
those were difficult times. We were living a dictatorship after living so many years, about 14 years with a democracy.
Y una economía sana y con el modelo económico, social, comunitario y productivo hemos logrado
with a proper economical system with laws that could understand and could represent the people in our country.
En nuestro país, y lo primero que hizo fue llenarse los bolsillos del dinero del pueblo boliviano.
Once these people took power, the first thing they did was to take advantage of the progress and the money and the resources of people in Bolivia.
En octubre del año 2020, con esa conciencia que le caracteriza,
in October in 2020,
para las bolivianas y los bolivianos, con más
that democracy that we once had, I'm glad to say that it came back, and now it's stronger than ever, and we are enjoying now the benefits of it.
Y es que la derecha se basó en tantos manuales para hacer el golpe de Estado que se olvidó de que la política y en realidad
the opposition was too focused trying to destroy the system that we already had, that they forgot that the Bolivian people know how to fight, how to defend their rights. And after the elections, we will have to face many challenges, for example, like the pandemic. I would also like to highlight that we also enjoyed the collaboration, the help from the president of the Asian country that is a dear friend from us, the president of China. I'm proud to say that we have evolved, that we have changed. We're facing some challenges. We are facing now a big debt, but we will overcome this situation and we will develop our country. Because the current system is the one that has shown that this is how the Bolivian people can improve their life conditions economically and healthcare and education.
En ese momento aparecía y asomaba la crisis financiera que después estalla, como todos recordamos, el 2008.
In 2008 started a crisis that we all know, that has several consequences for the whole world, but also to Bolivia.
Organismos internacionales que están haciendo aguas. Hasta este momento nosotros vemos claramente que no ha habido ningún cambio y no se ha adecuado a estas realidades y que tiene que tener un cambio.
This is a situation that needs to change, that hasn't changed since it started. And international organizations need to take action in order to solve this crisis.
La cual, por supuesto, nosotros apoyamos fundamentalmente. Se está rompiendo la hegemonía.
Right now, we are seeing a series of processes. For instance, we are seeing that in Latin America, hegemony is being severely affected. In spite of it, we have keep fighting, and we have been able to stabilize our situation. We have been able to collaborate between the countries in Latin America.
Participativa y activamente, como son, por ejemplo, ahora nuestras organizaciones sociales en Bolivia.
We have been working actively through organizations, social organizations, in order to provide the Latin American people the stability and the life conditions they deserve.
Ampliando, por lo tanto, la participación de todos los sectores en Bolivia y además no solamente con esa participación.
And in order to achieve that, all sectors in Bolivian government, the Bolivian system, participated for be able to accomplish this goal.
Esto es muy importante mencionarlo porque eso marca también nuestra diferencia.
It's also very important to highlight
Nosotros creemos en un mundo multipolar.
That we believe that we are living in a multipolar world.
Porque además esas hegemonías nos han implementado el sistema capitalista
with a very remarkable hegemony, an hegemony that capitalist countries have established in the world. And therefore we have the duty to respect our nature, the Mother Earth. We need to respect as well our resources. We need to defend the countryside, the country people, and the indigenous people. We also need to remember that we can't only care about the human well-being. We need to care and we need to take action also for the earth well-being.
El cambio climático, un cambio es controlable, la crisis no es controlable y lo que ha pasado.
We need to keep in mind that we don't need to fight climate change because change means that it's something that is constantly evolving, but this is not a change, this is a crisis and we need to address it now in order to solve the major problem.
Son los elementos importantes que nosotros hemos estado realizando y consolidando.
These are the major concerns that we have been analyzing and solving through this meeting.
Nosotros siempre en esa línea de criticar a un sistema capitalista que lo único que ha traído a nuestra América
We have always criticized a capitalist system that is destroying Earth and destroying the resources of other countries.
Y nosotros tenemos ahora un manejo totalmente diferente de los recursos naturales. Los ponemos al servicio de la humanidad.
Nowadays, we are using natural resources not for enrichment, not for self-enrichment, but we are using it to improve life conditions of the people. We are destining all this income for the people. We are always going to reject all the sanctions and policies against our neighboring countries. We reject all the politics and all the blockage against our brother Cuba and Venezuela.
De sanciones que se están dando a nuestros países porque esto significa que tiene un impacto en la población.
We reject these sanctions and policies because they affect directly not only the governments but also the people. The people who are the ones who are seeing the consequences of these policies are now starving and they lack the essential resources to have a decent life.
Sencillamente, lo único que buscan es mostrar el poderío de una hegemonía. Una hegemonía con la que poco a poco, felizmente, vamos viendo que el mundo está cambiando.
The North is implying these politics, these sanctions, to prove to the world the hegemony that they have, the power that they have.
Por lo tanto, en esa línea de todo lo que la visión que tenemos desde Bolivia y de nuestro pueblo boliviano.
So I would like to say that in name of the Bolivian people, I would like to say that we're very happy to be here. I'm very glad that we have been able to share our thoughts and concerns in this meeting.
Esa tormenta de ideas tiene que generar acciones por parte de cada uno de nosotros para lograr los objetivos que
The ideas that we have shared during this meeting are the ones who are going to set the path to solve all of the problems and the crisis that we're going through right now.
Nos sumamos y nos sentimos partícipes y por eso venimos aquí a compartir con ustedes.
And that's why we came here. We came here to share our thoughts, to unite our forces and our resources to get an agreement and be able to solve all the problems that we're facing right now, not only in Latin America, but also in Europe.
Le voy a dar la palabra ahora a un compañero que ha hecho lo que parecía imposible, que era
I would like to give the word to my partner here who has done a very difficult task.
de derecha, gobierno, colaboradores, de terratenientes, de narcotraficantes.
He has faced all sorts of threats. He has solved an enormous amount of problems in the country.
Llegar vivo a las elecciones ya parecía milagroso. Nosotros teníamos mucha preocupación. Estábamos convencidos que si llegaba a las elecciones la ganaría.
He has done a lot of positive things for his country. He did won the elections. We thought that was a very difficult task, but he was able to overcome all the problems and succeed.
Consiguió haciendo un trabajo excelente al frente de la alcaldía de Bogotá. Y lo consiguió sobre todo.
He has accomplished many things, but
nos matan por separado. Él ha sido capaz de bajo el paraguas.
he has been capable of solve problems in Colombia under the threats of and the interference of other countries in our political affairs.
Tiene la presidencia, pero no tiene el poder. No tiene el poder en Colombia. En un territorio muy hostil, ser ejemplo de reformas en favor.
Colombia is right now a very hostile country.
Por la justicia social y da ejemplos de paz.
But however, we would like to say that we still are an example of peace, an example for the rest of the countries in the region, because we have overcome the situation, despite of all the threats that we have received recently.
Dentro de Colombia es una apuesta valiente y estamos convencidos de que será exitoso. Compañero Petro, tiene usted la palabra.
I would like to give the word to my partner Petro.
Bueno, yo ya tuve un saludo aquí a los y las presentes, todos y todas ustedes.
I would like to greet everybody present here today.
En esta reunión tuve ayer la oportunidad de expresarme en la Cumbre de los Pueblos.
I had the opportunity to express my thought yesterday in the People's Summit.
Cómo vemos el mundo y cómo interpretar esa lectura en función de una transformación.
And there I shared thoughts, and the rest of the president shared thoughts about the current situation in the world and how to address those problems.
De una historia que fluye hacia adelante sin poderla predeterminar.
We discussed historical matters in the past, and we're discussing two current situations, and we're trying to predict future problems or situations that might occur in the future.
Que no repite modelos, a pesar de que no se puede olvidar la historia nunca se repite, fue lo que dijimos ayer. Nunca se repite.
Yesterday we said that history does not repeat. But in order to do that, we need to take into account a past event in order to prevent these events from happening again.
y políticos también con mucha diversidad. La construcción de la Unión Europea.
We talked about the role of the countries in Latin America and the European Union.
La integración de la América Latina, la integración latinoamericana ha sido más discurso que realidad.
And the need for the Latin American countries to stay united.
Acción que discurso.
That is something that we need to do. We have talked about thoroughly about this topic, but we need to take action in order for it to happen.
Si lo quisiéramos repetir, nos daría vergüenza porque era una articulación alrededor del carbón. La fuente de energía fundamental en aquellos años, hace décadas.
We talked about environmental problems
de la Unión Europea fue la energía fósil.
and how they affect countries of both regions.
No podríamos repetir esa historia.
We talked about that the problems that we have facing, mostly environmental problems that we face in the past, but we cannot keep fighting it now.
Pero el proyecto en sí mismo no cuaja todavía.
So we have set a series of measures that we need to do in order for us to overcome the environmental situation that we're facing right now.
Que es sintomática por lo que ha producido.
We have been analyzing these measures, but so far we have not accomplished our main goal, which is to at least reduce the damages that we're facing right now.
En los tiempos de hoy, el mundo que tenemos hoy. La Unión Europea se ha centrado básicamente en un tema que era
The European Union has been addressing only to one matter,
que es ajeno para nosotros, la guerra de Ucrania.
that this topic is mostly the war in Ukraine.
En el mundo, América Latina y Unión Europea alrededor de Zelensky, del apoyo de una estrategia política, económica y militar, obviamente.
That has been a topic that is being addressed thirdly about the war and the governments of the both countries.
Hay una derechización que no es artificial, yo creo que tiene que ver con la derechización de sus propias sociedades. Sociedades que tienen mucho que perder en el mundo contemporáneo de hoy.
I think that the main reason that why they have been addressing this topic is because it's what affects them directly.
Hoy la sociedad europea tradicional tiene muchísimo que perder y tiene miedo. Y los miedos generan las extremas derechas.
And we can tell by your concerns that European countries are fearing the consequences of this war, the consequences it might have for neighboring countries, for the whole continent.
Del pasado. La entrada de los países ex-soviéticos, ex-socialistas a la Unión Europea indudablemente ha marcado más este ritmo. Esta mañana nos reunimos lo que se llamó el encuentro de socialistas y demócratas.
This morning started a meeting with countries, with Democrats and socialist countries.
27, enmarcados más o menos en esa línea. 6 de 27. Y entonces, con ese bloque era que estábamos hablando nosotros.
And we were talking to those countries, which is a total of 27 countries.
Indudablemente tiene fuerzas centrífugas que no han permitido un proyecto de integración real.
And between the main topics that we were talking about unity, unity that we have not been able to achieve yet.
México hace las veces más o menos de Ucrania, no en términos políticos, sino en términos económicos. Quizás Ucrania quisiera
Mostly because most of the attention has been centered in the conflict in Ukraine and the consequences that it might bring.
Empresa norteamericana que no pase por procesos productivos en México. Eso ha dado un éxito relativo en la industrialización mexicana, muy superior a la que ha tenido el resto de América Latina, pero obviamente esa interdependencia construye una realidad que no es propiamente la unidad latinoamericana. Y Brasil,
I would also like to highlight that we need also to address economical problems in countries such as Mexico and Brazil, whose economies are thriving right now.
Rusia. Al final, digamos, hay una discusión de en qué mundo juega América Latina, por dónde juega, hacia dónde va.
So, one concern during this meeting is the role that Latin America plays in the world, in international affairs.
No inscribirnos en ningún tipo de bloque externo a nosotros, sino pensar en nuestra propia unidad, integración, etc.
We wouldn't like to be added to any other organization, to any other bloc. We would like to keep united between ourselves.
América Latina tiene proyectos de derecha, ha alternado proyectos, eso ha sido un aprendizaje. Países que han podido pasar.
Latin America itself has its own projects, political and economical projects for the improvement and development of all the countries in the region.
Quizás el mexicano es el más consolidado de todos por su apoyo popular permanente y sólido.
Probably the country that has achieved the bigger amount of goals is Mexico, who has been seeing recently our economical growth.
Analizar cómo una sociedad puede pasar de dar una victoria electoral y a los pocos a un proyecto progresista y profundamente progresista y pasar a los pocos meses el mismo electorado a rechazarlo y a votar incluso.
You have seen a difficult political situation in this country between the period of the elections and the following one. It was a very convulsive period where they faced certain situations that were hard to handle at the time, but seems to be solved by now.
En general, como ya pasó en Bolivia, otros proyectos han logrado recuperarse después de golpes de Estado y de golpes de fuerza.
Most Latin American projects have faced the interference of other countries. They have faced attempts and politics against them, but they have been able to overcome the situation, maybe not to solve it, but at least to be past the worst effects of it.
Pero que fundido en sangre, digamos, la guerra perpetua, la sangre, la violencia permanente ha llevado a la inexistencia de gobiernos de izquierda en el país y a la idea de una insurgencia eterna.
The violence and conflicts in these countries are affecting the political sphere of the region.
Un cuerpo social permanentemente armado durante décadas por generaciones, pues termina degradado, porque el fin de un proyecto político no es el arma, no es matar.
All of these political projects have been fighting against the same consequences through years, but we may say that
humana, incluso social, política.
There has been an improvement, there has been a growth in social, economic and political spheres.
Nosotros rompimos un poco ese hecho. Tenemos un año, así que está por verse qué pasa. Pero esta diversidad de proyectos al encontrarse con la Unión Europea,
these projects that we have,
es una especie de soledad.
Once we talk about it with the European
Aquí no está pasando lo
Union,
mismo.
we
Aquí lo que está pasando es una derechización real.
we can see that we
Los
cannot
movimientos
integrate
alternativos europeos
our
que antes
interests with
nosotros
them.
mirábamos como faros hace unas décadas, ahora nos miran a nosotros. Y entonces nos preguntan, ¿y cómo hacemos? Indudablemente hay un...
So the main question right now is how can we integrate both of our projects without leaving anybody behind?
Estoy absolutamente convencido que lo que empieza a definir la política en el mundo, los conflictos sociales y la posibilidad de una transformación, es la crisis misma del capitalismo.
The crisis that capitalism is facing right now is one of the reasons why we can't integrate the projects that we have. It affects us all directly, but we need to overcome the situation and be able to integrate.
Apoyar a Estados Unidos o a Rusia, me parece que es lo mismo. Me parece que en el juego de la política mundial realmente no tenemos alternativas sociales. Tenemos alternativas quizás militares.
We need to create some alternatives, social alternatives for our people, not only economical and in the military. We need to also address social concerns as well.
Parte quizás sale del mismo capital, porque el capital ha encontrado un límite. Fue lo que dijimos ayer.
As we talked about yesterday, we are seeing nowadays that capitalism has reached its peak and is now, we may say that it's decreasing, that it's failing.
Claro, fácil decirlo después, en ese momento no, pero lo cierto es que no fue así. El capitalismo tiene una enorme vitalidad para superar sus propias crisis y ha ido construyendo este mundo de hoy.
However, we know that capitalism has the ability to reconstruct itself, and we can tell that it will keep affecting the world in the future.
Puede entender el mundo de hoy, sobre todo en esta que es su principal crisis, la crisis climática.
And one of the main crises that we're facing right now, not only capitalism, but also the whole world itself, is the environmental crisis.
Si uno lo mira desde la teoría económica, rompe el paradigma de la creencia de que un mercado libre lleva al bienestar, que es el teorema de Walras, que está en el fondo de toda ideología política de los gobiernos del
This
mundo de hoy,
is
de la
a
televisión,
problem, the environmental problem is a
incluso de la
problem that
cultura de la
affects
sociedad.
all spheres of every country, especially the economical sphere.
No al máximo de bienestar. Luego se rompió el paradigma teórico. Ahora, esa ruptura de paradigmas mentales, de conocimiento del pensamiento, indudablemente está anunciando lo que será una ruptura política muy intensa y social.
And we can tell that by the economical problems that has been causing, we can tell that these economical problems will translate to social problems later on.
Porque es la extinción de la humanidad lo que se ha puesto en el orden del día.
And that what we have to understand right now, that the problem that we're facing right now goes beyond economical and social problems, is the matter of the existence of the humanity, what is in danger right now.
No los partidos políticos, la ciencia misma, y que anuncia a través de sus teorías científicas la debacle de la vida en el planeta a partir de la acumulación del capital, pues sea ahí que ese es su límite. El capital no puede ir más allá, porque solo habría muerte.
So what we're seeing right now is that the capital has reached his stop, which means that it cannot keep developing, which means that it will decrease and will affect the economical order of the world. It will affect the environment.
Incluso la utopía de pensar que el capital mismo puede resolver el Frankenstein que creó. Esa es la Unión Europea.
The fact that the capitalism can solve most of the problems we're facing right now is a common misconception.
Del Consejo, de la Comisión, ya no de la Comisión.
However, I can tell, and we all know, that this is not a solution for the problems that we're facing right now.
Tenemos que apoyar al capital privado porque sin el capital privado no podremos resolver la crisis climática. Fue el capital privado lo que produjo la crisis climática.
There's a common thought that capitalism is the only thing that can solve the problems that we're facing right now. But the truth is that capitalism has been the one who created the crisis that we're facing right now.
Capital en la lógica de la acumulación, la codicia, porque es la ganancia el motor de eso. La maximización de la ganancia maximizó el consumo de carbón y petróleo.
The greed that characterizes capitalism, that need for bigger incomes and for taking advantage of natural resources, has been the main reason why we are having right now this environmental crisis.
Solo que ese cambio químico en la atmósfera mata hasta el capitalismo, al capitalista más poderoso del mundo, a menos que piense irse a vivir a la Luna o Marte, que parece.
But what we need to keep in mind is that capitalism, what capitalism has caused, all the environmental problems that it has caused, will affect us all.
Pues muy interesante si pudiéramos verla desde lejos, pero que nos implica a todos vitalmente, la discusión entre la vida y el capital.
The relationship between life and capitalism is an important topic that we have been addressing recently, and we have been sharing thoughts about this.
Es una contradicción imposible. Si acaba la vida, acaba el capital, punto. Y como nosotros queremos la vida, y ahí donde se puede construir la alternativa.
What we need to keep in mind is that if we keep acting the way that we're doing, if countries keep acting the way that we're doing right now, capitalism will destroy life in Earth. But what we need to save is not capitalism, it's life. With life, we can create solutions and alternatives that will improve the conditions that we have been facing all these years.
El tema de la crisis climática a mí me parece que está demasiado discutido y debatido en la institucionalidad de presidentes que no pueden tomar decisiones, de poderes
Climate
públicos
change
que se
is
gastaron hace
a
tiempo.
topic that we have been talking about internationally through many years, through many
A
decades.
través de todo el periodo del neoliberalismo, que es porque el neoliberalismo trataba de eso, de disminuir el poder público. Y ahora un poder público disminuido, endeudado,
However,
sin capacidad de
the
planificación.
agreements and
Incluso
politics
la
that
principal
we
economía
have
del mundo,
agreed
los
have
Estados
not
Unidos,
been accomplished.
tiene que acometer la tarea de solucionar el Frankenstein del capital.
What we need to do is to fix all the problems that capitalism has caused and is affecting the world right now.
De la Unión Europea América Latina es construir retórica sobre la crisis climática, pero no actuar. Matemáticamente se podría demostrar si hay la posibilidad de un capital verde, como se insinúa.
The main challenge that European Union and Latin America is facing right now is the possibility of creating an alternative, hopefully a green alternative that can both save the environment, the natural resources, but also our economies.
Porque si están creciendo ambas, no estamos solucionando la crisis climática, la estamos agravando. Matemáticamente solucionar la crisis climática en un tiempo que está cronometrado, que no puede extenderse más allá de cierto límite, es sustituir la energía fósil por la energía limpia. Y eso
And in
significa
order
sustituir
to
un capital
achieve this
por
goal
otro dentro
of
del
green
capitalismo.
alternatives, we need
Eso
to
significaría que
stop
tendría que ser profundamente
overusing
más rentable el capital limpio
the
que el
natural
fósil.
resources that are not renewable. we need to create alternatives that will preserve both the earth and the economical well-being of our countries.
El capital no quiere escaparse de explotar la fuerza de trabajo porque si no se acaba. Y hasta el día de hoy el carbón y el petróleo le permite a través de su tecnología explotar y controlar la fuerza de trabajo en todo el mundo. En China es un ejemplo de ello.
Another problem that capitalism has created is the fact that in order to fulfill their needs, they need labor force, cheap labor force, and this is also an important problem that mostly Latin American is suffering the consequences.
Se puede producir desde América Latina, es que la región más potente en producir energías limpias es América del Sur. Tenemos el tercer pilar climático, la selva y la potencialidad. Y eso cambiaría la geopolítica.
Something that we need to keep in mind is that Latin America is a very rich region. If we make proper use of our resources, we can be able to provide for ourselves without needing the interference or action for any other countries. We are able to fulfill our needs by ourselves.
Se puede suicidar antes de cambiar el poder. Entonces, la política obviamente va a ser intensa. Pero yo creo que tenemos que prestarnos a esas nuevas formas de la política. Pues son políticas que se ligan a la defensa de la vida.
So what we need to do right now is change the way that we're seeing the world. We need to change the politics that we have right now.
En el campesino, allá en el clan afro, corre en la inmensa diversidad humana.
We need to think about the well-being not only of the earth but also of the people. Those who are in disadvantage are the ones who are suffering the consequence of both capitalism and the environmental problems.
Y que yo, más o menos, si quisiera aplicar este análisis a Colombia, pues la encontré, porque no, si yo me constituyo en un proyecto clásico de izquierda en Colombia, armado o desarmado, nunca hubiera ganado. Y no hubiera roto el bloque de la derecha, que siempre fue mayoritario. Hoy pretenden volverlo a reconstruir, obviamente, porque todo se mueve.
One problem that we're facing right now in Colombia is the violence and the military actions that are taking place right now.
La vida, por eso nuestra consigna fue Colombia, potencia mundial de la vida.
Right now, this violence affecting directly the people that is living in Colombia right now, and that's why we are rooting for life right now.
Hay miedo. No se ha ocultado la información, se sabe qué va a pasar. Ese miedo hay que convertirlo en esperanza, decíamos esta mañana. El progresismo tiene que ser no solo un faro que junte la ciencia, porque no puede negar la ciencia. Una izquierda que niega la ciencia
we fear right now for the well-being of our people, but we need to change that fear and translate that fear into hope.
Lo sabemos, pero nuestro faro. La política progresista tiene que ligarse a la
we need
ciencia,
to take advantage of this new project, this project of hope that will be creating the path of Latin American countries for better life conditions and the well-being of its people.
Pero si no hay teoría y nos quedamos es en la consigna, en la nostalgia y en la retórica, pues no somos faro. Entonces la discusión teórica aquí tiene que profundizarse. Entonces tenemos que volver sin que, bueno, discúlpame que me estoy extendiendo porque como dice el vallenato colombiano me deja el avión.
We need to be practical when we are creating these solutions for the problems that we have. We need to take advantage of the advances that science have accomplished so far and be able to apply this knowledge for creating solutions that would actually solve our problems.
Claro, si se equivocaban en la teoría, se equivocaban en la acción. Yo creo que se equivocó Lenin, pero no podía tener en ese momento de su historia las condiciones para aprender lo que tendría que ser una transformación, por ejemplo, en el mundo de hoy. Nosotros tenemos que vivir y beber de una teoría que se vuelve revolucionaria.
We need to rely on a theory in order to create helpful solutions that will solve the problems that we're facing right now. Years before, we didn't have the advances in the development that we have right now. That's why the theories in the past had failed. However, we can now use the knowledge that we have acquired in the recent years and update the politics and the theories that we have.
Colombia no sabía inmigrantes. Nosotros somos un país que vive entre montañas, olvidándose que nuestra fundación republicana fue caribeña. Haití, Jamaica, Bolívar, Cartagena. Pero se volvió andino, se concentró allá como Madrid, imitando a Madrid ahí entre las montañas sin ver el mar. Y entonces no queríamos salir del país, no sabíamos.
Something that we have to admit is that Colombia has been excluded itself from the rest of the Latin American countries. We have been centered in our problems, but right now we are seeing that we have the need of integrating the rest of the countries, the neighboring countries that we have next to us, in order to be united.
Entonces, donde la humanidad se inventó las dos palabras, república y democracia, está la fuerza más grande del mundo hoy de gente que muere ahogada.
And what we know right now is that two main accomplishments of the humanity is the republic and the democracy. And we need to rely on this in order to succeed in all the plans that we have shared.
Luchando por la vida y aferrada a la vida. Y el papel nuestro es darle luz a esas explosiones sociales, políticas, humanas y articularlas de tal manera que sea la vida la que supere el capital.
Right now, we need to understand, the main thing that we need to understand is that life is what needs to be preserved. Over other concerns that we have had, life is the most important one.
Compañeros, los presidentes Luis Arce y Gustavo Petro tienen que marchar, sí o sí, tenían que haber marchado hace ya rato. Y están aquí aguantando, le agradecemos mucho la generosidad en el tiempo.
My friend here, President Petro, he has to leave. He has been talking with us for a while, but he has to leave now.
Pero lo agradecemos dando esto el cariño que merece. Muchísimas gracias.
However, we are thankful for his presence here, and we thank him for his words and his thoughts.
seguimos los trabajos ahora con Iván Gil Pinto,
We
canciller de la
continue
República
to
Bolivariana de
discuss.
Venezuela, un país de que se habla mucho aquí en el Parlamento Europeo.
We're going to hear now the words from my partner here.
Su destino por sus propias manos y ha enfrentado el imperialismo. El resultado lo conocemos.
He
Sanciones,
has
bloqueo,
faced several
entonces,
attempts,
paso
and
la
we
palabra
have
para que
succeeded.
nos hable de
And
eso.
we can say that he
También
has
como
accomplished
ejemplo
his
de
goal.
resistencia del pueblo venezolano, quiero decirle que en este Parlamento tienen amigos. Voces que
And
siempre han
in name
defendido el
of the
pueblo
Venezuelan people and the
venezolano,
parliament
respeto por su
present
soberanía.
here, I would like to
Muchas
say
gracias.
that you will always have our friendships and our help whenever you might need it.
Bueno, primero un saludo antiimperialista, antifascista, revolucionario de parte del presidente Nicolás Maduro, presidente constitucional de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela. Agradezco en nombre del presidente, en nombre de su
I would like to
vicepresidenta,
thank,
que también
in name
tenía
of the
pensado
president and the
venir,
people in
pero la
Venezuela.
agenda ha estado bastante complicada. Estuvo ayer en el evento político-cultural acompañándonos con un extraordinario discurso. Agradecer el esfuerzo que ha hecho los amigos permanentes de Venezuela,
I would also like to thank
integrantes del Parlamento, integrantes de los partidos políticos,
the
los
effort and the
movimientos
collaboration with the
sociales
friends
europeos
of
y
the Venezuelan
latinoamericanos,
people
los movimientos latinoamericanos en Europa, que han hecho un extraordinario esfuerzo estos 2 días en realizar la cumbre de los pueblos
who have
acá
put a lot of
en
effort and a
Bruselas.
lot of work in order to be able to have this space that we're having right now.
La redacción y los compromisos que ha logrado esta cumbre, que nos lo resumía el compañero Centella al inicio de la jornada. Creo que ha sido un extraordinario esfuerzo por resumir las aspiraciones de los diversos grupos que han estado participando.
I'm planning
en esta cumbre,
to talk about,
y que pone los puntos
in
realmente
order to sum up the main problems that we have been talking about and the thoughts that we've been sharing these 2 days.
de esta cumbre, a pesar que el comunicado o su declaración es una guía política para todos nosotros, yo creo que lo más importante de esta cumbre de los pueblos no es su declaración.
The most important thing of this summit that we are having right now,
sino es el relanzamiento de una esperanza, es el relanzamiento de una guía fundamental para los movimientos y partidos de izquierda, los movimientos sociales, para
the main
poder llevar,
topic that we have been addressing right now is hope,
la clase obrera,
which
la clase
will be
trabajadora,
the one that will lead us for a path of improvement and development in all the spheres that every country has in the economical and social, environmental spheres.
Y el presidente Lucho nos hacía una clase magistral de la geopolítica y de la doctrina revolucionaria y antiimperialista. Cuando repasamos esos momentos hoy, nuestra juventud, nuestra población, nuestra clase obrera pudiera, al analizarla, al ver la fotografía de cómo se están desarrollando
what have been hearing here in this summit, the words of the President Petro and other presidents,
pudieran sentirse, sobre todo en Europa, pudieran sentirse en primer lugar pesimistas ante el futuro que espera,
is mostly the problems that we're facing right now, the environmental problems that we're facing, and the need for unity between the both regions.
Imperialistas y sobre todo con su alianza actual con el fascismo mundial, que es sin duda el principal peligro, la principal amenaza que tienen los pueblos.
Always rejecting all the politics and sanctions that imperialism has been posing to these countries.
En América Latina lo hemos visto a principios de este año, lo veíamos los primeros días de enero, apenas una semana asumiendo el presidente Lula, veíamos cómo
we
brotaba el
have
fascismo
witnessed
en Brasilia, y
the
se lo dice
effects of these policies against the Latin American countries. We saw it in Brazil after the elections.
El fascismo. Y ya les voy a hablar un poco de eso, lo que es el fascismo en América Latina y los ensayos que han hecho para promover y para permitir los avances fascistas.
So that will be the main topic that we'll be addressing today, the effects that imperialism has had in Latin America,
un futuro mejor, hacia el control de su soberanía y de
and
sus
how it prevents us and is trying to stop us from achieving the main goals that we're having right now of economical improvement, economical growth.
Que estamos ante un reto realmente histórico, ¿no? A nivel global, pero vamos a hablar de las dos regiones que hoy nos convocan acá, que es América Latina y Europa.
We are facing a big challenge today, a challenge that involves both regions, Latin America and Europe.
Nos estamos jugando la supervivencia no solo de la clase trabajadora, sino de la propia vida misma en nuestros países.
And this problem is mostly environmental problems which threats the well-being in the both regions.
Vienen avanzando coordinadamente a través de sus distintas instancias, han puesto en riesgo desde hace tiempo la estabilidad del planeta, su ambiente, su
This
salud.
environmental problem, we can call it a crisis, has been threatening the stability that we have right now in the world, and it's also putting to doubt the future well-being that the humanity will have.
La situación política es producto de la pandemia del COVID-19 o es producto de una guerra que se desató en Europa, como si no hubieran otras guerras en el mundo, como si no hubieran otras agresiones en el mundo. La clase
the
dominante
conflicts
trata de
in
decirnos
Europe
que la
are
inflación, que la falta de medicina,
being one of the main topics that have been addressed. But I consider that it's also important to address the rest of the conflicts in the world.
COVID-19 o de la guerra en Ucrania, cuando
Not only address the conflict in Ukraine and the consequences of the pandemic.
son productos precisamente del modelo que ha venido imponiéndose en los últimos años y en el cual la izquierda ha venido combatiendo durante varias décadas, precisamente alertando de estas
Both of these
consecuencias.
problems have
Entonces, por eso
been
que
affecting
decimos
both
que en
regions,
esta-
but the reason why these problems exist is
que se ha hecho
only a consequence of capitalism. Capitalism that we have been fighting all this time.
es precisamente levantar nuevamente las banderas de la denuncia y de la acción de la izquierda latinoamericana y la izquierda europea ante los desafíos y ante las amenazas que nos genera precisamente el capitalismo y el imperialismo, que, como bien le decía, hoy se alía nuevamente, porque ya lo hizo en otra
We need
época, se alía
to
nuevamente con el fascismo
unite our
para
thoughts
combatir,
and our forces and take
cualquier
action
posibilidad de
against the
avance, sobre todo en
consequences
América
that
Latina.
capitalism
Lo
has
hemos
been
visto con muchas cosas, pero también lo
showing
vemos
to the rest
de
of the
otra
world,
manera expresado en los
especially
pueblos de Europa
environmental
con el
problems.
avance de las derechas a través de la promoción y a través de la permisividad con la cual actúan las instituciones contra el fascismo. En Venezuela, precisamente, para entrar un poco en el tema venezolano, se ensayaron y se siguen ensayando todas las formas de contención de los movimientos populares, los movimientos sociales.
For instance,
Y se ensayó con
in our
más
country,
fuerza
Venezuela, we
el
have faced
fascismo
all sorts of
desde el
threats
año
and
2004,
politics and sanctions against our government and against our people.
En el 2002 ya venía incubándose una serie de acciones para promover
A series of actions that since 2002 have been trying to prevent us for developing and improving our conditions.
Es una situación que se sale de control, como lo hemos visto en los actuales momentos, y lo vimos en Brasil cuando se salió del control, y las propias fuerzas en Europa que nunca condenaron los ataques fascistas a Venezuela, que nunca se atrevieron
And something I would like to highlight as well is that when Venezuela was facing these politics, these sanctions, these aggressions,
de la socialdemocracia
the
o
rest of the
incluso de la derecha
community, the international community, did not
que lo que estaba sucediendo en
reject
Brasil era
the
una situación
situation that we
peligrosa,
were facing back
pero
then,
alertaron
in the same
demasiado
way
tarde
that
porque
is
ya esas fuerzas habían
addressing
sido
the
desatadas
wars and the
muchos años
conflicts
atrás
nowadays in the region.
con su propia acción de permitir el desarrollo de esto, porque en Venezuela estamos seguros, y lo decimos realmente con mucha propiedad, es un laboratorio donde se ensayan todas estas fuerzas para contener
we can
avance.
say without doubt that Venezuela has been an experiment. Venezuela has been the country in which all these politics and all of these aggression has been being tested through decades.
Han debatido con suficiente detalle cuáles han sido los principales elementos de ataque hacia Venezuela y hacia el poder popular en Venezuela. Ataques que van desde
we have been, like I said, facing all sorts of attacks.
No estratégicas, a las instalaciones alimentarias, a las instalaciones de servicios de salud, o sea, todo lo que tiene que ver con ataques a la infraestructura o saboteo de la infraestructura, con lo que tiene que ver
have
con
suffered all sorts of aggressions to the internal structure of the country. We have been facing politics that affects the economics, the healthcare system, and education as well.
Sanciones desde Europa o desde Estados Unidos. Nosotros ayer teníamos una reunión y representantes del Servicio de Acción Europeo nos decía es que Europa no tiene sanciones contra la economía venezolana, pero nada más y nada menos que nuestra vicepresidenta y todos nuestros
Something that we have been talking about is that all of the sanctions that Venezuela is facing, neither of them is a result of the actions of European countries.
No les permite suscribir, ni abrir, ni cerrar, ni desarrollar ninguna actividad económica y financiera, y son precisamente la cara, son la personalidad que realiza estas acciones. Es decir, hay una sanción directa contra el pueblo de Venezuela que hoy no se le permite ni siquiera tener una cuenta.
But what is an undeniable fact is that there are direct sanctions and politics that affect directly the economical growth of the people in Venezuela.
Esta situación, porque las sanciones existen desde, es una aplicación, diría yo, medieval, ¿no? Es decir, desde el medioevo existe las sanciones cuando
sanctions have been a historical resource. Sanctions have existed ever since medieval times.
Restringía su posibilidad de comercio, le eliminaba su posibilidad de alimentación, lo asediaba. Y eso es lo mismo que aplica en Europa.
Sanctions have always had as a main goal to restrain the growth, the economical growth of the region that is affecting the country in question. However, at the end of the day, we can say that the fact that European nations are not taking action and are not rejecting the sanctions that we're facing right now is affecting somehow indirectly our country as well.
Con la primera sanción que aplica siempre el poder, que es el llamado, voy a usar una expresión, el bullying, que lo usan, el bullying mediático, que es precisamente el desprestigio que se le hace a una clase dirigente, a una clase
One of the main problems that Venezuela is facing right now is the lies and the manipulation that has been that we have been facing right now against our government, especially on social media.
violentos, somos asesinos, y crea una matriz de opinión bastante
these
fuerte,
lies that
donde,
say
bueno,
mostly that
eliminan,
we are
excluyen
murderers
por
and we
quién va a querer
violate
negociar con un
the
narcotraficante, quién va a
human
querer
rights.
negociar con un traficante de niños o de trata de blancas o ladrón. Nadie quiere negociar con él. Entonces, es lo primero, la primera
And
sanción que
the
aplica, que
result
es
of
el
these
desprestigio.
sanctions and the result of these lies and this manipulation against our country is mostly that we can't now, we can't share economically with other countries. We can't develop ourselves regarding the economy because these lies have created sort of a spectrum, a misconception against the Venezuelan government, which has prevented other countries from negotiating with us.
La economía, la estructura financiera privada, que es la que domina todo el gobierno, digamos, de facto que existe en Europa y que se ha confabulado para atacar a Venezuela, pero también lo ha hecho con Cuba, también lo ha hecho con Nicaragua, también lo ha hecho con Bolivia y seguramente también lo hará con otros países muy pronto, como lo estamos viendo. Que se comienzan
These
ya a
kind
construir
of
narrativas
manipulation, these kind of sanctions, has not only been used against Venezuela, has been used against other countries like Cuba and Bolivia, who are also suffering the consequences of these kind of acts.
Por eso yo digo, Venezuela está bajo sanciones desde el año 1999. De la propia llegada del presidente Chávez, ya nosotros comenzamos a sufrir las sanciones, estas que hablaba, mediáticas,
Venezuela has been suffering this kind of aggression for decades.
Esto comenzó desde el mismo momento, desde antes de las elecciones, pero digamos que
this is not a recent fact, a recent event that is occurring in our country. This has been happening for decades now.
Vías en diferentes momentos y hemos ido avanzando sobre ella. Ahora, por supuesto, cada vez que triunfamos nos viene un paquete nuevo de sanciones mucho más, es como una guerra, pues, ¿no? Cada vez que avanzamos en una viene un proyecto
the final result that we have seen right now is every time that we accomplish any of our goals, there is always a new set of rules, a new set of laws or actions that will take it, that will affect the accomplishment that we just made.
Hay que decirlo, o sea, Donald Trump no fue detenido, o sea, nadie en este parlamento institucional, digamos, no nuestros amigos.
Something that is worthy to highlight. I think that is the fact that when Donald Trump was president of the United States, and when he imposed all of those rules and sanctions against Venezuela and other countries, European countries did not reject those actions, did not take action against those actions. And I think that is something that we need to highlight.
La locura que hacía Trump contra Venezuela. Y pasaron 4 años con una complicidad desde la instancia de gobierno europea.
During the government of the Donald Trump president, we suffered the consequences of the politics during that time. Consequence that affected directly mostly the economy of our country.
En el medio de esto, un nuevo sistema económico bastante
But we, in order to overcome that situation, we have been building a new system. A system that takes into account all of those actions and tries to overcome the situation, always trying to preserve the well-being of the people.
El objetivo del comunicado, el objetivo de la declaración, el objetivo de esta reunión de la Cumbre de los Pueblos tiene que ser relanzar la esperanza de que podemos construir un mundo diferente.
But the importance of this summit is the fact that we can create, that we can organize new politics, a new way of thinking, which can be centered in hope, because hope will be the only thing that would lead us to a brighter future.
Que hemos conquistado con anterioridad y que ahora pareciera que vamos a retroceso. Eso está bien, es la denuncia, pero yo creo que lo más importante aquí es cómo nosotros articulamos las fuerzas que disponemos, cómo articulamos
The most important thing right now is how we organize ourselves and collaborate in order to overcome the problems that we're facing right now.
De gobierno, una alternativa de poder, una alternativa de ventajas para la clase trabajadora y para el pueblo europeo y el pueblo venezolano.
We need to change our way of thinking in order to improve the conditions in Venezuela, in Latin America, and the rest of the world as well.
Que hemos sido sometidos a las peores sanciones que haya conocido el mundo moderno.
We have been suffering recently the worst aggressions and the worst laws and the worst actions against our country, trying to prevent us from being able to achieve the goals that we always had.
Y que también han demostrado ante el mundo que es posible sobreponerse, que es posible avanzar sobre esas
Other countries like Cuba are an example for the rest of the world of how we can create new alternatives that always will overcome the situations that we are facing, no matter what it is.
Para no cansarlos y aburrirlos, porque creo que hay unas intervenciones muy interesantes que nos esperan. Creo que
in order to sum up,
los desafíos de la paz son fundamentales.
I think that one of the main challenges that we have right now is to keep peace.
Un conflicto de escala global sumamente peligroso que puede amenazar, bueno, la propia existencia de la especie humana como la conocemos.
We are facing,
Estamos hablando del enfrentamiento
we are fighting right now against conflicts in the whole world that are threatening the existence of humanity.
jamás conocida y combinada con el apetito imperialista y capitalista de desarrollar la industria militar, que es lo que estamos viendo.
Those conflicts and the greed of capitalism, which is using military force to achieve their goals, are the ones who are threatening the well-being of the humanity right now.
De negociación, de conversaciones, de respeto a la legalidad existente. Eso también creo que se ha debatido suficientemente en nuestros paneles.
These topics are have been the main topics that we have been addressing today and yesterday here in this summit.
Reconstruir, rediseñar.
We need to create, we need to build, we need to adapt ourselves and create solutions for our people. We need to improve the well-being of the people. We need access to health. We need employment for the people. We need access to clean water.
Porque había construido con la acumulación de riquezas, con todos los análisis que puede haber, pero parecía que eran problemas que estaban desterrados de Europa. Y hoy los vemos aparecer completamente.
Those problems that I just mentioned used to be problems that only affected undeveloped countries and Latin American countries as well, but these problems are affecting now the European Union as well.
Del ladrón, ¿no? Que es el capitalismo. Entonces, hoy yo creo que es hora que en este evento nosotros podamos.
Therefore, I think that here in this summit,
Para unidos trabajar en los problemas que tiene la gente.
we can think and we can create an alternative and a solution for the problems that both regions are facing right now.
Las banderas de las necesidades del pueblo, las necesidades de los trabajadores. Basta ya
These new alternatives that we will create need to address also the social problems that our communities are facing.
con el verdadero problema, que es un problema de lucha de clases, es un problema de conflicto de clases. Y ahí está el meollo, como decimos nosotros, del asunto que debemos resolver. Y por eso yo celebro que precisamente esta declaración, este comunicado que nos regalaron las mesas de trabajo durante esta discusión de estos días.
However, the discussions that we're having here yesterday and today,
Responsabilidad como militantes revolucionarios y antiimperialistas poder hacer realidad precisamente
I can say that it's our duty to fight the effects and the consequences of capitalism, and we need to create. It's our duty to create an alternative that will. There will be an advantage for all the Latin American and European countries.
Tiene ahora la palabra el compañero Jean-Luc Mélenchon.
Gracias. Les pido disculpas porque hoy no voy a hablar español, pero francés. Como ustedes todas y todos lo saben, no estoy hablando como presidente de la República Francesa, pero puedo hablar como portavoz de los pueblos franceses de los Caribe y de América, porque ellos me dieron a la primera vuelta la mayoría de sus votos. Bien, je vais me contenter de jouer le rôle d'un des porte-parole de l'opinion progressiste européenne. Et ce sera pour vous dire d'abord notre stupeur après ce sommet entre l'Amérique latine, l'Amérique du Sud et l'Europe. Pourquoi la stupeur? Parce qu'il y a déjà 8 ans, il y a eu un tel sommet. Et nous n'avons observé
Where we are listening to statements of Jean-Luc Mélenchon, leader of the France Insoumise political party. The leaders that have spoken so far in these closing statements of the 2023 People's Summit, we are referring to Colombia's President Gustavo Petro, Bolivia's President Luis Arce. They have all had the same issue, the same topic of mind: unity, to work together for the future. And we've been listening to the closing statements of the 2023 People's Summit. Representatives call for the protection of human rights, the environment, the right of the people to self-determination. They also call for international policies to be made with aims of strengthening win-win relations. Representatives also condemn imperialism and their continued efforts to keep Latin American and Caribbean nations from reaching their development goals. Authorities also condemn illegal economic sanctions and the U.S. blockade against Cuba. The closing ceremony was attended by several Latin American leaders like Bolivia's Luis Arce and Colombia's Gustavo Petro. President Luis Arce thanked the People's Summit support during Bolivia's hardest time. Arce reiterated the need to face the ongoing climate crisis and join in the rejection of illegal sanctions and blockades against Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. Colombian President Gustavo Petro referred to the need that Latin American nations stay united to face current and future challenges. President Petro said capitalism led the world to the current crisis that puts at risk the existence of humanity, and what must be done now is jointly work to fix all the issues capitalism brought about. Petro added that the EU and CELAC must find alternatives that will preserve both the environment and the economic welfare of the nations. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil denounced the effect of neoliberal policies and imperialism in Latin America. The Foreign Minister also denounced the EU's stance of not condemning illegal sanctions against his country and others like Cuba and Bolivia. We'll have more updates shortly in upcoming news briefs. Stay with us.